Commander Ginho stood on the bridge of the warship Eternal Dawn, staring at the view screen with cold eyes. The transmission had arrived 3 hours ago, and he had watched it 7 times already. Each viewing made his anger burn hotter. The alien on the screen was tall and thin, purple skin that shimmered under bright lights. Ambassador Vexel of the Throne World spoke in a voice that dripped with contempt. Behind him, 12 other council representatives sat in high chairs. Looking down at the camera as if addressing insects, humanity will present itself before the Galactic Council within 10 solar rotations, Vexel announced. You have violated numerous regulations regarding space commerce, territorial expansion, and unauthorized trade agreements. Your species will answer for these crimes. Failure to comply will result in economic sanctions and military blockades of all human-controlled systems. Jinho paused the recording and turned to his second-in-command. Captain Murray stood beside him, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. She had served with him for 15 years, through the colony wars and the pirate conflicts. He trusted her judgment more than anyone else in the fleet. Now what do you think? He asked quietly. Murray tilted her head. They're scared. Scared? Ginho raised an eyebrow. They're threatening us with their entire fleet. Look at their positioning, Murray said, pulling up a tactical display. Our long-range sensors picked up their ships 2 days before they sent this message. They're arranged in a defensive formation, not an attack pattern. If they really wanted to intimidate us, they would have positioned themselves aggressively. Instead, they're protecting their own assets. Jinho studied the display. She was right. The Council's fleet formed a protective shell around their command carrier, with smaller vessels screening the larger ones. It was the formation of someone expecting to be attacked, not someone preparing to attack. Intelligence Officer Hejun Ginho called out. A young man turned from his station near the back of the bridge. What have you found in those encrypted transmissions we intercepted? Hejun walked forward, carrying a datapad. His fingers moved across the screen as he pulled up the relevant information. Sir, I've been analyzing their private communications for the past 8 hours. The encryption was actually quite easy to break, which suggests they either didn't expect us to intercept it or didn't care if we did. And Murray prompted, They're terrified of us, Hejun said simply. Not of our military power specifically, though they do mention our fleet capabilities multiple times. They're afraid of our expansion rate and our technology development. In the past 50 years, humanity has colonized 30 systems. Most species in the Council took 300 years to achieve the same growth. Jinho nodded slowly. What else? They're worried about our jump drive technology. We can travel between systems in days, while their ships take weeks or months. They're also concerned about our open technology sharing policies. Apparently, several minor species have approached us for technical assistance, and we've been helping them without asking for anything in return. The Council sees this as undermining their authority. Undermining their authority, Murray repeated, her voice flat. They mean undermining their control, Hejun nodded. Yes, Captain. The internal communications are quite clear. The Council maintains power by controlling access to advanced technology. They decide which species gets to advance and which ones stay dependent. We're disrupting that system. Ginho walked to the large window at the front of the bridge. Outside, stars stretched in all directions. Somewhere out there, the Council's fleet waited for humanity's response. They expected Earth to bow, to apologize, to accept their authority like every other species had done for 12,000 years. Sir? Murray stepped beside him. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about my daughter, Jinho said quietly. She's 10 years old. She lives on the colony at New Busan with her mother. When I left Earth to join the fleet, I promised her I would help build a better future. A future where humanity could grow and explore without asking permission from anyone. He turned to face his crew. Every officer on the bridge was watching him, waiting for orders. These were good people, brave people. They had volunteered to serve in the defense fleet, knowing they might die, protecting human colonies from pirates and raiders. Now they faced something far more dangerous, the most powerful political organization in the galaxy. Send a message to the Council, Ginho said clearly. Make sure it goes through all standard channels so everyone can see it. The communications officer straightened. Yes, sir. What should the message say? Ginho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Tell them this. Humanity does not answer to those who speak with forked tongues. We will govern ourselves. Earth declines the Council's summons. The bridge fell silent. Officers exchanged glances. Murray's eyes widened slightly, though she quickly controlled her expression. Sir, the communications officer said carefully, that's a direct refusal. No species has ever refused a council summons, and will be the first, Jinho replied. Send it now. The officer hesitated for only a moment before turning to his console. His fingers flew across the keyboard, encoding the message and preparing it for transmission. Within seconds, it was done. The message shot out from the eternal dawn, traveling through the quantum communication network that connected all of human, space, and beyond. Hajun spoke up from his station. Sir, the message will reach the Council fleet in approximately 4 minutes. It will also be visible to every ship, station, and colony that monitors standard communication channels. That includes hundreds of alien species, Kujinho said. Let them all see it. Let them see that humanity refuses to bow. Murray moved closer and lowered her voice. Jinho, do you understand what this means? The Council has never had their authority challenged like this. They will respond with force. Let them try, Jinho said. We've been preparing for this possibility since we first encountered the Council 15 years ago. Our fleets are ready. Our colonies are defended. And most importantly, we're right. The Council has no legitimate authority over us. We never agreed to their laws. We never signed their treaties. They simply expect us to obey because everyone else does. What if they attack? Murray asked. Then we defend ourselves, Jinho replied. But I don't think they will. Not immediately. They'll try threats first, then sanctions, then more threats. They're not used to resistance, Murray. The Council has grown fat and lazy on 12,000 years of unquestioned power. They've forgotten how to deal with someone who says no. The 4 minutes passed in tense silence. Then Hejun's console beeped urgently. Sir, we're receiving a response from the Council fleet. They're demanding clarification of our message. They seem to think there's been some kind of mistake or translation error. Ginho laughed, a short, harsh sound. They can't even conceive that we meant what we said. Send the same message again, word for word. Add this. There is no mistake and no misunderstanding. Humanity chooses freedom. As the second message transmitted, Jinho turned back to the window. Out there, the Council fleet was probably in chaos right now. Their commanders would be arguing, trying to decide how to respond to something unprecedented. They would contact their superiors, who would contact the Council itself. Bureaucrats and politicians would debate and argue. Meanwhile, humanity would prepare. Not for war necessarily, but for whatever came next. Because Jinho knew one thing with absolute certainty. The galaxy had just changed forever. And there was no going back. Dr. Yunji looked tired as she stood before the gathered representatives in the Earth Assembly building. She had not slept in 36 hours, too busy fielding messages from across the galaxy. Her quantum communication array had changed everything, and now everyone wanted to talk about it. The design is simple, she explained, bringing up a holographic display. Any civilization with basic manufacturing capabilities can build one. I've made the blueprints freely available on the extranet. No patents, no fees, no restrictions. The Earth representatives murmured among themselves. President Hyen leaned forward in her seat. Dr. Yunji, the Council's relay networks generate trillions in revenue each year. You've just made their entire infrastructure obsolete. Do you understand what this means? Yunji smiled wearily. Yes, Madam President. It means species won't have to pay the Council's extortionate fees just to communicate with their own colonies. It means independent worlds can coordinate without the Council monitoring every message. It means freedom. One representative stood up, concern clear on his face. But won't this provoke them even more? We've already refused their summons. Now we're destroying their economic base. They were already provoked. Diplomatic envoy, Suho said from his seat near the front. I've been receiving messages for weeks now. Dozens of minor species, all saying the same thing. They're begging us to stand firm. Do you know what life is like under council rule? He activated his own display, showing images and documents. The council decides which species can advance and which ones can't. They forbid certain technologies, claiming they're too dangerous. But really, they just want to maintain control. If a species develops something that threatens council profits or power, they intervene. Sometimes economically, sometimes militarily. Suho's expression hardened. 300 years ago, the Quillen people developed efficient fusion reactors. The council claimed the technology was unstable and banned it. The Quillen economy collapsed without access to cheap energy. They're still recovering. 200 years ago, the Mythian civilization created a faster-than-light communication system. The council seized it, classified it as dangerous, and absorbed the technology into their own networks. The Mythians who invented it disappeared. The room fell silent. Everyone knew these stories. But hearing them laid out so clearly made the situation real. Admiral Kuhn spoke from the military section. He was an old man, with gray hair and scars on his hands from his years as a fighter pilot. The council tolerates piracy in frontier regions. Did you know that? They claim they can't stop it, but that's a lie. We stopped it in 3 years with a fraction of their resources. He stood, his voice growing stronger. The pirates keep younger species afraid and dependent. Colonies get raided, ships get destroyed, and species come running to the council for protection. Protection that comes with a price. Tribute, trade agreements, technology restrictions. The council has been running a protection racket for thousands of years. President Hyen looked around the room. Is this confirmed? Yes, Suho said. I have testimony from 17 different species. All of them say the same thing. The council knew about the pirate havens. They knew about the supply lines. They chose not to act because the pirates served their interests. On the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The Great Chamber was ancient, built 5,000 years ago when the council was first formed. Representatives from 600 species sat in curved rows, all facing the central platform where Archon Threll stood. Threll was old even by his species standards. He had led the council for 2 centuries, and in all that time, no one had seriously challenged their authority. Until now, humans have made their position clear, he said, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. They refuse our summons. They undermine our economic systems. They spread their technology without restriction. They ally with minor species and encourage rebellion against established order. A representative from the throne world stood. Archon, what do we know about human military capabilities? Threll gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the central platform. Their fleet consists of approximately 8,000 combat vessels. Primitive by our standards, but numerous. They have developed jump drive technology that exceeds our own in speed, though not in capacity. Their weapons are conventional, but effective. Another representative spoke up. 8,000 ships. The council fleet has over 200,000. Numbers are not everything, Threll replied. The humans have proven surprisingly resourceful. They defeated the Pirate Confederation in the Outer Rim, something we claimed was impossible. They hold 30 systems, all heavily defended. And they have something else. Something more dangerous than any weapon. What? Several representatives asked at once. They have principles, Threll said quietly. And they're willing to fight for them. Most species submit to our authority because it's easier than resisting. The humans don't care about easy. They care about freedom. That makes them unpredictable and dangerous. Counselor Illith, one of the few members who had argued for reform over the years, stood from her seat. Perhaps we should consider negotiation. Real negotiation, not demands. Threll's eyes narrowed. Negotiation implies equality. If we treat the humans as equals, every other species will demand the same. Would that be so terrible? Elith asked. The chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives agreed with Illith. Most did not. The council had maintained order for 12,000 years by keeping strict hierarchy. Species were ranked by age, technology, and influence. The council itself sat at the top, making decisions for everyone. Threll raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. The question before us is simple. Do we allow humanity to reject our authority, or do we enforce our laws? If we do nothing, the council becomes meaningless. Other species will follow the human example. Our entire system will collapse. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with key representatives. I propose a vote. We send another delegation to Earth. This time, we make clear that refusal will result in military action. We give them one final chance to submit. If they refuse again, we blockade their systems and bring them to heel by force. And if they fight, someone asked, then we crush them, Threll said coldly. We make an example of humanity so horrific that no other species will ever dare to challenge us again. The vote was called. 600 representatives cast their decision. When the count was complete, the result was clear. 547 in favor, 53 against, the council had decided. Humanity would submit or be destroyed, back on Earth. Dr. Yunji received a message from a young scientist on a distant world. The message was short and desperate. Please don't surrender. You're our only hope. She showed the message to President Haiyan, who read it silently. Then the president made a decision. She called for a press conference, one that would be broadcast across every human world and, thanks to Yunji's quantum network, to any alien species that wanted to watch. Standing before cameras and crowds, President Haiyan spoke clearly. The Galactic Council demands our submission. They threaten us with sanctions and military force. They believe we will bow to their authority because everyone else has. She paused, letting her words sink in. They are wrong. Humanity did not crawl out of caves, cross oceans, and reach for the stars just to kneel before tyrants. We will not submit. We will not surrender. And we will not be silent about the Council's crimes. Behind her, a screen displayed documents and recordings. Evidence of Council corruption, suppression, and cruelty. Everything that Suho and others had gathered over months of careful investigation. This is who the Council really is, Haiyan continued. Not guardians of galactic peace, but enforcers of galactic tyranny. They don't want order. They want control. And they fear us because we refuse to give it to them. She looked directly into the camera. To any species watching this, you are not alone. You don't have to accept injustice. You don't have to live under their thumb. Humanity offers an alternative. Join us in building something better. A confederation based on freedom, equality, and mutual respect. No masters. No subjects. Just free people working together. The transmission ended. Within hours, 17 civilizations sent secret messages to Earth expressing interest in this new confederation. The Council's worst nightmare was coming true. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were offering an alternative to 12,000 years of Council rule. The Council Warfleet arrived at the edge of human space exactly 10 days after the first summons. 300 massive warships, each one capable of destroying a small moon. They positioned themselves in clear view of the outer colonies. A display of overwhelming force meant to terrify Earth into submission. Commander Jinho watched them arrive from the bridge of the Eternal Dawn. He showed no fear. Instead, he opened a communication channel that broadcast on every frequency, ensuring that not just the Council fleet but every species in the galaxy could hear. This is Commander Jinho of the Earth Defense Fleet, he said clearly. The Council has brought a war fleet to our borders, hoping to intimidate us into abandoning our freedom. We want everyone in the galaxy to see this moment, to understand what the Council does to species that refuse to bow. He gestured to his communications officer, who began streaming live footage of the Council fleet. Their weapons were powered up, their shields active. They looked ready for battle. Let the records show, Jinho continued, that Earth has not attacked anyone. We have not invaded Council space. We have not threatened their worlds. Our only crime is saying no. And for this, they bring 300 warships to our door. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the transmission. Some species sympathized with Earth. Others thought humanity was foolish to challenge the Council. But everyone was watching. Pilot Deho led his squadron of 12 interceptors from their carrier. They were small, fast ships, designed for reconnaissance and quick strikes. Against the massive Council warships, they looked like insects next to elephants. All ships maintain distance of 50 kilometers, Deho ordered. Don't engage. Just follow them. I want them to know we're watching every move they make. His squadron spread out, each ship shadowing a different section of the Council fleet. The Council ships tried to shake them off, changing course and speed randomly. But Deho and his pilots stayed close, using their superior maneuverability to match every movement. Inside the Council flagship, Ambassador Vexel watched the human ships with growing frustration. Why don't they attack? He demanded. Or retreat? This is humiliating. The fleet commander, a grizzled veteran named Korth, shook his head. They're making a point. They want us to fire first. If we attack those small ships, we'll look like bullies. The entire galaxy is watching, remember? Vexel slammed his hand on the armrest of his chair. This whole situation is intolerable. Humans should be cowering in fear. Instead, they're mocking us. Back on Earth, Engineer Nari worked in a secret military facility deep underground. She had spent the past 3 years developing a system that would change the balance of power between Earth and the Council. Now, with the war fleet at their doorstep, it was time to activate it. Bring in the network online, she reported to Admiral Kyung via secure channel. All sensors are jamming on my mark. Throughout human space, thousands of small devices activated simultaneously. They had been quietly installed on asteroids, on satellites, on the hulls of trading ships. Each one projected a sophisticated jamming field that interfered with Council sensor technology. On the Council flagship, suddenly every screen went dark. Sensors showed nothing but static. Weapons targeting systems failed. Navigation computers struggled to maintain basic positional data. What's happening? Vexel shouted. They're jamming us, Korth said, his voice tight with tension. Our sensors are completely blind. We can see with our eyes, but our technology can't penetrate whatever they're doing. Can we fix it? Not quickly. This is sophisticated jamming, more advanced than anything in our database. We'd need weeks to develop countermeasures. Vexel felt cold fear in his stomach. The Council fleet was blind. They couldn't accurately assess Earth's military capabilities. They couldn't target human ships effectively. They couldn't even be sure how many human vessels were in the area. Pull back, he ordered. Retreat to safe distance and regroup. The Council fleet withdrew, their retreat broadcast across the galaxy. To everyone watching, it looked like Earth had just forced the mighty Council to back down without firing a single shot in the Earth Assembly. President Haiyan met with her advisors. Scientist Youngji had just delivered news that changed everything. The generation ships are ready, Youngji announced. 10 vessels, each capable of carrying 50,000 people and everything needed to establish a completely self-sufficient colony. They don't need support from Earth or from any established human world. Defense Minister Sujan studied the plans on his datapad. So even if the Council blockades every human system, we can still expand? Exactly, Youngji confirmed. These ships can travel for decades if necessary. They carry their own manufacturing equipment, genetic banks, educational systems, everything. Drop them near any habitable planet, and within 10 years, you'll have a thriving colony. President Haiyan smiled. The Council's worst nightmare. They can't contain us because we don't need them for anything. We're not dependent on their trade routes or their infrastructure, as more Youngji added. 17 other species have expressed interest in the design. If we share it with them, they could achieve the same independence. Share it, Haiyan said immediately. Share everything. That's what makes us different from the Council. We don't hoard knowledge. We give it freely. 3 days after the war fleet's retreat, Ambassador Vexel sent another message to Earth. This time, his tone was different, less arrogant, almost pleading. The Council requests negotiations, he said. We wish to discuss the terms of Earth's integration into galactic society. We are willing to offer concessions regarding trade regulations and territorial disputes. We ask only that humanity recognizes Council authority as legitimate. Commander Jinho read the message and laughed. They still don't understand. They think this is about trade or territory. They think we're negotiating for better terms. Captain Murray sat beside him. What do we tell them? Jinho thought for a moment. Then he dictated his response. Tell them this. Earth does not seek concessions from the Council. We do not recognize the Council's authority as legitimate. We do not wish to integrate into their system. We are building something new, something better, and we invite any species that values freedom to join us. He paused, then added, Tell them that humanity offers the Council a choice. They can continue as they are and watch their power crumble as more species join our confederation. Or they can reform themselves, abandon their tyrannical practices, and join us as equals. But they cannot continue to rule over us. That time is over. The message was transmitted, and with it, Ginho attached something else. A formal document drafted by President Haiyan and approved by the Earth Assembly. It was titled Charter of the Free People's Confederation. The charter outlined principles of governance based on equality, voluntary association, and mutual cooperation. Any species could join. No species would be subordinate to another. Technology would be shared freely. Disputes would be resolved through mediation and arbitration, not by decree from above. Within the first hour of its release, 23 species formally expressed interest in joining. By the end of the day, that number had grown to 42. By the end of the week, 76 civilizations were actively discussing withdrawal from the Council to join. Earth's Confederation, the Galactic Council watched in horror as their empire began to collapse. Species that had been loyal members for thousands of years were suddenly questioning their authority. Trade networks were reorganizing around human systems. The Council's relay network sat unused as more species adopted. Dr. Yunji's quantum communication arrays, Archon Threll called another emergency session. This time, the chamber was not filled with confident representatives. Instead, there was fear, panic, desperation. If we don't act now, Threll said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage, the Council will cease to exist. Humanity has built an alternative to our order. Species are abandoning us. Our economy is collapsing. Our authority is meaningless. Counselor Illith stood up. Perhaps it is time to accept that our methods are no longer working. Perhaps we should consider genuine reform. Reform. Threll spat the word. You want us to surrender our power? To become equals with primitive species that couldn't even leave their planets without our guidance. They're leaving their planets just fine now, Illith pointed out. And they're doing it without begging for our approval. Maybe that's what terrifies you. Not that they need us and rebel, but that they don't need us at all. The argument raged for hours. Finally, Threll made his decision. Send the war fleet to Earth itself, not to the border, to their homeworld. We'll show them the consequences of defying us. We'll show every species watching what happens to rebels. The vote was called. This time, it was closer. 340 in favor, 260 against, but it was enough. The Council war fleet began its journey to Earth. This time, brought not 300 ships, but 1,000. In this time, they were not coming to threaten. They were coming to attack. The news of the Council's advance spread like fire through the galaxy. 1,000 warships were heading to Earth, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Species across known space watched nervously, wondering if this would be the end of humanity's brief rebellion. On Earth, Admiral Kyung assembled his fleet commanders in the war room. Defense Minister Sujin stood beside him, her face grim. They had prepared for this possibility, but hoping for something and facing it were different things. Our intelligence shows the fleet will arrive in 6 days, Kyung said. They're not hiding their approach. They want us to see them coming. They want us to be afraid. Commander Jinho studied the tactical display. What are our defensive capabilities? We have 400 warships in the home fleet, Sujin replied. Another 600 spread across our other systems, but they can't reach Earth in time. We're outnumbered more than 2 to 1. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what those numbers meant. In a straight fight, Earth would lose badly. Then something unexpected happened. A communication came in from the Council fleet. But it wasn't a threat or a demand. It was a request for private discussion. Ambassador Vexel appeared on the screen, but he was not alone. Beside him stood another alien, one with silver skin and kind eyes. Counselor Illith, Commander Jinho, Vexel said quietly. Counselor Illith wishes to speak with you. In private. We are requesting a secure channel. Jinho looked at Admiral Kyung, who nodded. The private channel was established, encrypted with human technology that the Council couldn't break. Illith spoke first. Commander, I am risking my life by contacting you. If the Council leadership discovers this communication, I will be executed as a traitor. But I cannot stay silent. Why should we trust you? Jinho asked bluntly. You shouldn't, Illith admitted. Trust must be earned. But please listen to what I have to say. The Council was not always corrupt. 5,000 years ago, the galaxy was consumed by the Dominion Wars. 3 massive empires fought for control, and billions died in the fighting. Entire species were wiped out. Planets were rendered lifeless. She paused, pain evident in her expression. When the wars finally ended, the surviving species created the Council to prevent such horror from ever happening again. The idea was to maintain peace through cooperation and shared governance. For the first 1,000 years, it worked. The Council mediated disputes, helped species develop peacefully, and maintain stability. What changed? Captain Murray asked, joining the conversation. Power corrupts, Illith said simply. Over centuries, the Council became less about cooperation and more about control. Leaders who wanted reform were voted out or silenced. The Council became an institution that existed to preserve itself, not to serve the galaxy. I have watched this happen over my lifetime, and I have been too cowardly to oppose it effectively. Until now. Vexel spoke up. Commander, the Council is sending this fleet not because they believe they can win a clean victory. They're desperate. Your Confederation has gained 76 member species in 1 week. At this rate, the Council will be completely irrelevant within a year. They would rather destroy Earth than accept that reality, so they'll attack us regardless of casualties. Jinho asked. Illith said. But there's something else you should know. The aggressive empires at the edge of Council space are watching this situation very carefully. The Krell Dominion and the Shothan Collective have been contained by Council military presence for centuries. If the Council collapses entirely, those empires will expand aggressively. Millions will die. Tactician Taijin, who had been listening silently, leaned forward. You're saying that destroying the Council might cause more harm than good? I'm saying the situation is more complex than it appears, Illith replied. The Council is corrupt and tyrannical, but it also serves a purpose in maintaining galactic stability. If it falls too quickly, without something to replace it, there will be chaos. Defense Minister Sujin frowned. What are you proposing? A middle path, Illith said. Don't destroy the Council. Transform it. Force reform from outside. Become a counterbalance to their power. Work with reformists like myself to gradually change the system into something better. Jinho shook his head. That could take centuries. In the meantime, species continue to suffer under Council rule. Then offer them an alternative, Illith suggested. Your Confederation gives species a choice. Stay with the Council or join you. Let the Council continue to exist, but without its monopoly on galactic governance. Competition will force them to reform or become irrelevant. The Council leadership will never accept that, Vexel interjected. Archon Threll would rather see the galaxy burn than share power. Then Threll must be removed, Illith said quietly. There are others on the Council who think as I do. We are a minority, but we are not powerless. If you can weaken Threll's position enough, we can move against him. Commander Jinho considered this carefully. It was a gamble. If they trusted Illith and she betrayed them, Earth could be destroyed. But if she was genuine, this could be the path to lasting change. What do you need from us? He asked finally. Proof, Illith said. Undeniable evidence of Council corruption that even loyal members cannot ignore. and you need to make Archon Threll look weak and foolish. If the Council believes he is leading them to disaster, they will turn on him. We have plenty of evidence, diplomatic envoy, Suho said, entering the conversation. Months of collected data showing bribes, suppressed technologies, sabotaged civilizations. We've been saving it. Then use it, Illith urged. Broadcast it at the moment of maximum impact. When the fleet reaches Earth, when the entire galaxy is watching, show everyone what the Council really is. I will do the rest from inside. The channel closed. Ginho turned to his team. Opinions? It could be a trap, Admiral Kyung said immediately. It could also be our best chance, Taijin countered. A military victory is unlikely. Even if we somehow won, we'd be crippled. This offers a better outcome. Captain Murray spoke thoughtfully. Illith is right about one thing. The galaxy needs stability. If we simply break the Council without building something to replace it, we create a power vacuum. History shows what happens then. President Haiyan joined the meeting via hologram. She had been listening to the entire conversation. I agree with Illith's basic premise. We don't want to destroy galactic governance. We want to transform it. Make it fair and just instead of tyrannical. But can we trust her? Sujin asked. We don't have to trust her completely, Haiyan replied. We prepare for both possibilities. We ready our defenses as if we'll have to fight. But we also prepare the evidence and the diplomatic strategy. If she's genuine, we work with her. If she betrays us, we're ready to defend ourselves. Ginho nodded slowly. Agreed. Admiral Kyung, prepare the fleet. I want every ship ready for combat. Defense Minister Sujin, activate all planetary shields and defensive platforms. Envoy Suho, work with Dr. Yunji. I want every piece of evidence we have organized and ready to broadcast. He looked around the room at his team. In 6 days, the Council fleet will arrive. They think they're coming to crush a rebellion. Instead, they're walking into the moment that changes galactic history. One way or another, nothing will be the same after this. So over the next 6 days, Earth prepared feverishly. Engineer Nari worked around the clock with her team, installing more defensive systems and improving their jamming networks. Scientist Youngji prepared the generation ships for emergency evacuation if Earth fell. Pilot Daeho drilled his squadrons endlessly, practicing maneuvers and tactics, and diplomatic envoy Suho worked with a team of researchers, organizing years of evidence into a comprehensive document that laid bare the Council's crimes, corruption, suppression, exploitation, and cruelty, all documented with communications intercepts, financial records, and testimony from hundreds of species. On the 4th day, 17 more species announced their intention to join the Free People's Confederation. The Council was hemorrhaging members faster than anyone had predicted. On the 5th day, Councillor Illith sent a brief encrypted message. We are ready. 37 Council members will support reform if Threll falls. Be strong. On the 6th day, the Council war fleet emerged from jump space near Earth. 1,000 massive warships, arranged in attack formation. They surrounded the planet, weapons charged and ready. Archon Threll's face appeared on every screen in human space. His message was simple and brutal. Humanity will surrender within 1 hour, or we will commence bombardment of Earth. This is your final warning. Submit or be destroyed. Commander Jinho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, which was positioned between the Council fleet and Earth. His 400 ships looked tiny compared to the Council armada, but Jinho was not afraid, because he had one weapon the Council had forgotten about: the truth. And in just a few moments, the entire galaxy was about to see it. He opened a channel, broadcasting to every ship, every planet, every station in known space. This is Commander Jinho of Earth. Archon Threll demands our surrender. He threatens our homeworld with destruction. Before we respond, there is something the galaxy needs to see. On the screen behind him, the evidence began to play. The broadcast began with simple facts and figures. Council officials receiving bribes from corporations in exchange for favorable regulations. Documents showing how the Council had deliberately suppressed medical technology that could have saved billions of lives across dozens of species, all because it would have disrupted pharmaceutical profits. But numbers alone could not capture the full horror, so Dr. Yunji had included something else. Recordings, actual communications between Council members discussing their crimes, as if they were routine business. One recording showed a Council official laughing as he described sabotaging a promising young civilization's economy. They were getting too advanced too quickly. We couldn't have them competing with established corporations. So we manipulated their currency markets and crashed their economy. Set them back 50 years. Problem solved. Another showed Council military commanders discussing the pirate havens. Yes, we know where they are. No, we won't eliminate them. The pirates serve a useful purpose. They keep frontier species afraid and dependent on our protection. If we destroy the pirates, colonies become independent. Can't have that. A third recording was even worse. It showed Archon Threll himself ordering the assassination of a reformist leader from the Quillen people. He's advocating for technological freedom and reduced Council oversight. If his ideas spread, we'll have rebellions across the galaxy. Eliminate him. Make it look like an accident. The recordings played one after another, each more damning than the last. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in shocked silence. Species that had been loyal to the Council for thousands of years saw the truth for the first time. They had suspected corruption, but this was systematic, deliberate evil. On the Council flagship, Archon Threll watched the broadcast with growing horror. Shut it down. He screamed at his communications officer. Block the transmission. I can't, sir, the officer replied, his hands shaking. They're using quantum communication arrays. We don't have the technology to jam them. Every species in the galaxy is seeing this right now. Ambassador Vexel stood frozen, staring at the screen. He had known the Council was corrupt. He had even participated in some of the lesser crimes. But seeing it all laid out like this, seeing the full scope of the cruelty and manipulation, made him feel sick. The broadcast continued. Diplomatic envoy Suho appeared on screen, his voice calm and measured. This is who the Galactic Council really is. Not guardians of peace, but perpetrators of systematic oppression. They have lied to you for 12,000 years. They have told you they were necessary for stability, but they created instability deliberately to maintain their power. He gestured, and more documents appeared. The Council claims the Dominion Wars justify their authority. But did you know that Council members profited from those wars? That they sold weapons to both sides? That they prolonged the conflict because it was financially beneficial? Across the galaxy in the Council chamber, representatives began shouting. Some demanded explanations. Others called for Archon Threll's immediate removal. The chamber descended into chaos. Councillor Illith stood and raised her voice above the noise. I move for a vote of no confidence in Archon Threll's leadership. His actions have brought shame upon this institution and endangered galactic peace. Seconded. Came voices from multiple representatives. Threll's face went pale. You can't do this. I am the Archon. I have led this council for 2 centuries. And in that time you have transformed us from protectors into tyrants, Illith said coldly. The humans were right to refuse us. Look at what we've become. The vote was called immediately. In the midst of crisis, with the entire galaxy watching their shame, council representatives voted on their leader's fate. When the count was complete, the result was overwhelming. 570 votes for removal, only 30 against. Archon Threll was finished. But the crisis was not over. The war fleet still surrounded Earth, weapons still charged. The fleet commanders were receiving conflicting orders as the council fell into chaos. Commander Ginho watched the situation unfold from the eternal dawn. He knew this was the critical moment. The council was weakened, their leader deposed, but 1,000 warships surrounded his homeworld. Some of them might still attack. He opened another channel, this one directed specifically at the council fleet. Commanders of the council fleet, you have a choice to make. You can follow the orders of a corrupt and fallen regime, or you can choose honor. Your leaders have lied to you. They have used you as tools of oppression. You are not conquerors. You are not defenders of peace. You have been made into bullies and thugs." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But that can change right now. You can choose differently. Stand down your weapons. Return to your worlds. Tell your governments that the galaxy is changing, and they must change with it or be left behind." On the flagship, Ambassador Vexel made a decision. He turned to the fleet commander. "Stand down all weapons. Order the fleet to withdraw." "Sir," the commander asked, confused. "We haven't received orders from the Council. The Council is in chaos," Vexel said. "We have no leadership right now, and I will not be responsible for destroying an innocent world because Archon Threll wanted to preserve his own power. Stand down now." The commander hesitated for only a moment. Then he began issuing orders. Throughout the fleet, weapons powered down. Ships began moving away from Earth, returning to defensive formations. One by one, other commanders followed suit. Within an hour, the entire Council fleet had stood down. The invasion was over before it began. On Earth, people watched in disbelief. They had been moments away from annihilation. Now the enemy fleet was withdrawing without firing a shot. President Hyen addressed the planet via broadcast. "Today, we have witnessed something unprecedented. The galaxy's most powerful institution has been forced to confront its own corruption." And they blinked. "Not because we were stronger militarily, but because we were right morally. Truth is more powerful than any weapon." In the council chamber, Counselor Elith stood before the assembly. She had just been elected as temporary Archon until proper elections could be held. Her first act was to open a communication channel with Earth. "President Hyen," she said formally, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize for the crimes that have been committed in our name. You were right to refuse us. We had become unworthy of your trust or anyone's trust." President Hyen appeared on the screen, her expression serious but not angry. "Counselor Elith, apologies are a start. But what happens now?" "That is what I wish to discuss," Elith replied. "The Council cannot continue as it was. But neither can the galaxy afford total chaos. I propose that Earth help us draft a new charter, one that transforms the Council from a ruling body into a mediating body. One that ensures freedom and equality rather than control and hierarchy." President Hyen considered this. "The Free People's Confederation is willing to work with a reformed council. But we have conditions. First, all species must have equal representation, regardless of age or technology level. Second, the council can mediate but cannot command. Third, all council proceedings must be transparent and open to public scrutiny. Fourth, any species may leave council jurisdiction at any time without penalty." "Those are significant changes," Elith said. "They're necessary changes," Hyen replied. "Otherwise, you'll just repeat the same mistakes in another 1,000 years." Elith was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. "I agree to your conditions. I cannot speak for the entire council, but I will propose these reforms immediately. Will you send representatives to help draft the new charter?" "We will," Hyen said. "Diplomatic envoy Suho will lead our delegation." Over the next 3 months, representatives from Earth and from the Council worked together to create a new governing structure. The result was called the Galactic Assembly. Every spacefaring species had a representative. Decisions required broad consensus, not just council decree. A separate body was created to mediate disputes, with judges selected from multiple species to ensure fairness. The old council still existed but transformed. It became one voice among many, rather than the supreme authority. Species were free to join or leave as they wished. Technology was shared openly through a new galactic commons system that Dr. Yoonji helped design. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some of the older, more conservative species grumbled about the loss of their privileged position, but they adapted. They had no choice. The galaxy had changed, and they could change with it or be left behind. The Free People's Confederation grew rapidly. Within a year, it had 200 member species. Within 5 years, over 400. Some species maintained membership in both the Reformed Council and the Confederation. Others chose one or the other. A few chose neither, preferring complete independence, and that was acceptable. Because the new system was built on choice, it's not coercion. 10 years after the crisis at Earth, Commander Ginho retired from military service. He returned to the colony at New Busan to be with his daughter, who was now 20 years old and studying xenobiology at the university. On his last day aboard the Eternal Dawn, Admiral Kyung held a ceremony in his honor. Commander Ginho changed the galaxy, Kyung said to the assembled crew. Not with weapons or threats, but with courage and principle. He refused to accept injustice, even when refusing meant risking everything. After the ceremony, Captain Murray walked with Ginho to the shuttle that would take him home. "Do you think it will last?" she asked quietly. "The new system?" Ginho looked out the window at the stars. "I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Systems rise and fall, but we proved something important. We proved that power isn't permanent, that change is possible, that refusing to accept tyranny matters." He smiled. "And if the system fails someday, someone else will refuse to accept it. Someone will stand up and say no. That's what we taught the galaxy. Not that humanity is special, but that freedom is worth fighting for. And that's a lesson that will never die." On Earth, scientist Youngji looked at star charts with tactician Taijin, planning the next wave of exploration. Humanity had 30 systems 10 years ago. Now they had over 100. And they weren't stopping. "There's so much out there," Youngji said, pointing at unexplored regions of the galaxy. "So many worlds waiting to be discovered. And we're free to explore them," Taijin replied. "No one asking permission. No one limiting our growth. Just free people reaching for the stars." In the Reformed Council chamber, Counselor Illith addressed the assembly. She was old now, near the end of her life, but she had lived to see the transformation she had fought for. "The galaxy is better today than it was 10 years ago," she said. "Not perfect. We still have problems, conflicts, injustices, but we have something we didn't have before. We have hope. We have systems built on consent rather than coercion. And we have humanity to thank for showing us the way." Across the galaxy, species that had once lived under the Council's thumb now governed themselves. They made their own choices, developed their own technologies, pursued their own destinies. Some succeeded spectacularly, some struggled, but all of them were free, and in the end, that was what mattered most. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy or ruled it. They had simply refused to be ruled unjustly, and in refusing, they had freed everyone else as well. The stars stretched endlessly in all directions, filled with possibilities. And for the first time in 12,000 years, galaxy's peoples could pursue those possibilities without asking permission from anyone.